All right, let's play detective for a minute. We're going to try and solve a real-life puzzle, the case of the disappearing activity. It's the strange thing that happens to so many girls right as they hit their teens, and today we're going to figure out why. You've probably heard this before. It's a pretty well-known fact. During those middle school years, physical activity levels for girls just plummet. They take a nosedive. But why? I mean, is this just a normal part of growing up? Or are there some hidden forces at play here? That's the mystery we're digging into. So our investigation is based on a really detailed case file. It's a study that surveyed over 600 6th and 8th grade girls all across the US. And what's interesting is that the researchers weren't looking for clues in the girls themselves. Nope. They were looking at the world around them, their neighborhoods, their homes, their everyday lives. To really solve this, we've got to see the world through their eyes. The whole study focused on what the girls perceived about their environment, you know? It's not just about what's physically there, but how it feels to them. So, what kind of clues were these investigators looking for? The investigation basically breaks down into three big categories of clues. First up, we've got the overall vibe of the neighborhood. Then there are the resources. Are there actually places to go and things to do? And finally, there's access. How much freedom do these girls really have? Let's start with that first clue. Okay, our first clue is all about this vibe of a girl's surroundings. You have to ask, does her neighborhood basically invite her to come out and play? Or does it kind of, tell her to stay inside? Just think about all the subtle messages a neighborhood sends out. On one side, you've got a place that feels safe. It's clean, there are trees, interesting things to look at. And on the other, you've got a place that just feels unsafe. Maybe it's bland, there's litter around. The study found that these little details, they act as these powerful, unspoken signals.
So you might be thinking, okay, but how much does a simple feeling of safety really matter? We're not talking about crime stats here. We're talking about a girl's personal perception. Does that actually translate into a measurable difference in her activity? Well, the answer is a huge, resounding yes.
And here it is, our first major piece of evidence. Girls who simply agreed with the statement, "It is safe to walk or jog in my neighborhood," were more than 2 times as likely to be physically active. Just think about that. That is a massive impact, and it's driven entirely by how they perceive their safety. Okay, so a safe vibe is absolutely crucial. But what if it's safe, but there's literally nowhere to go? Well, that brings us to our second big clue, having resources and equipment available. Now, here's a question that seems almost too simple, right? We tend to think about big community projects like building new parks or gyms. But what about something as basic as just having a basketball or a bike sitting there at home? Wow, just look at that number. 2.5 times. Girls who said they had enough sports equipment at home were 2.5 times more likely to be active. That is an even stronger connection than neighborhood safety. It just goes to show you that sometimes the most immediate, simple resources can have a totally enormous effect. And hey, it's not just about what you have at home. This chart shows a really clear pattern. The more recreational spots a girl knows about in her own neighborhood, we're talking parks, tracks, pools, that kind of thing, the more active she is. The ones who knew about 10 or more places were over twice as likely to be active as the girls who knew of fewer than 7. So just knowing the places exist is key. So, we have a safe vibe, we have places to go, but there's one more really important piece to this puzzle. Can girls actually get to these places by themselves? And that brings us to our final clue, freedom and independence. You see, the path to being active often starts with permission from parents. It starts with trust. When parents allow their daughters to walk around the neighborhood or maybe take the bus on their own, it just unlocks this whole new level of independence. And if there's a bus stop that's easy to get to, that freedom expands even more. This quote from the study really says it all. Parental trust is a direct line to physical activity. It's a kind of support that's every bit as important as buying a new bike or living next to a park. It's really about empowering girls to go out and explore their own world. Now, every good mystery has a twist, right? And this investigation is no different. One of the weirdest findings was this. Girls who reported bad smells in their neighborhood were actually more likely to walk or bike to school. I mean, what on earth could explain that? And here's the investigator's note that solves this little riddle for us. It's not that girls enjoy bad smells, of course not. It's that when you're walking or biking, you notice your environment so much more, the good stuff and the bad stuff. Girls who are in cars or buses are literally sealed off from all those little details. So this strange clue is actually just a sign of being more aware of your surroundings.
Okay, we have gathered all of our clues. We've got the vibe, the resources, the freedom. We even have a strange smell. I think it's time to put it all together and officially crack this case.
So the solution to our mystery isn't one single culprit. It's this powerful combination of things that all work together to create a supportive environment. It's the feeling of safety, it's having resources nearby, it's getting that trust from your parents, and it's having the freedom to act on it all. When all those pieces of the puzzle click into place, girls are just so much more likely to stay active. And here's the most important takeaway from all of this. Cracking this case doesn't mean we need massive, expensive solutions. We're talking about things like keeping streets clean, making sure kids have a ball to play with, and building enough trust to let them walk to a friend's house. These are small, achievable changes that can make a world of difference.
And all of this leaves us with one last, really important question. Our environments, our neighborhoods, they are constantly sending messages to our kids about how they should live. So take a second and think about your own community. What is your neighborhood telling them? Thanks for joining me on this one.